Let me ask you something. When was the last time you looked at your life and said, this is exactly where I'm supposed to be? Not because it was easy, not because it was safe, but because it was right, because it was powerful, because it was powerful, because it was yours. You see, average doesn't ask you that question. Average wants you quiet, comfortable, controlled, and maybe for a while that worked. Maybe you convinced yourself that good enough was enough, that fitting in mattered more than standing out, that surviving meant thriving. But deep down you knew. You weren't made to settle. You weren't built to coast, and you were never meant to look back at your life and feel regret for the chances you didn't take, for the power you didn't claim. This right now is your wake-up call to rise above average, to step into the highest, most unapologetic version of yourself. But not tomorrow, not next year, now. Because average doesn't just steal your ambition, it silences your voice. And if you're listening to this, I want you to know you're not here by accident. You're here because you're ready to remember who you are, to break the cycle, to shift the standard, to lead. So listen closely. This message, this moment, it's not just a speech, it's a mirror. And it's time to face the truth. You were never meant to go back to average. And from this moment on, you won't. Average is seductive. It hides behind convenience, behind the illusion of peace. It tells you to be grateful for what you have and not to ask for more. It whispers that comfort is success, that staying safe is wisdom. But the truth is, average is the most dangerous place you can live. Because when you settle for average, you stop growing, you stop expanding. You stop becoming the person you were meant to be. You see, growth doesn't come from doing what's easy. It doesn't come from following the crowd or living by someone else's rules. Growth demands discomfort. It requires pressure. It pushes you to break patterns, to let go of everything familiar, and to step into uncertainty with courage. That's why average is so tempting, because it lets you stay still. But what seems like peace is really stagnation. What feels like stability is actually slow decay. And one day you wake up wondering where your energy went, where your passion disappeared to, and how you became so numb to your own potential. There is no transformation in average. There is no breakthrough in playing it safe. If you want to rise, if you want to lead, if you want to build something that lasts, then you have to be willing to let average go. You have to be brave enough to say no to what no longer challenges you, even when it's comfortable. Especially when it's comfortable. Because every time you choose average, you choose fear. Fear of failure, fear of judgment, fear of starting over. But what if you started seeing those fears as invitations to evolve, to stretch, to level up in ways most people won't dare to? Most people won't get it. They'll tell you you're doing too much. They'll say you've already made it far enough. They'll wonder why you can't just be content. And that's okay, because most people choose average. But you've tasted something different. You've seen what it feels like to stand in your strength, to speak from truth, to move with purpose. And once you've felt that, you can't unfeel it. You can't go back, not without betraying who you've become. This isn't about being perfect. It's not about proving anything to anyone. It's about refusing to stay small when you were made to be powerful. It's about understanding that your life doesn't change when things around you change. It changes when you raise your internal standards and refuse to go back to the version of you that kept shrinking just to be accepted. That version of you that apologized for wanting more, that lowered the volume of your ambition just to make others comfortable. You don't owe the world a quieter version of yourself. You owe the world your real self. And your real self doesn't live in average. The truth is, average will always be there waiting for you. It doesn't ask for much, just your dreams, your discipline, your momentum. And it will take it all without you even noticing. That's the danger. It feels so normal that you forget what you are capable of. It doesn't show up as failure. It shows up as comfort, as routine, as good enough. But you were not born to be just good enough. You were born to be a force. And you were born to create, to influence, to lead. You were born to rise higher, not for recognition, but because the world needs people who are awake. People who are alive. People who refuse to sleepwalk through life in the disguise of normalcy. And yes, it will cost you. Excellence always does. Always does. It costs you your excuses, your distractions, your comfort zone. It costs you the parts of yourself that wanted to stay hidden. But what you gain in return is so much greater. Clarity, confidence, alignment, power. The power to choose, the power to live on your terms. The power to become a living example of what's possible when you decide that average is no longer an option. So if you're hearing this right now and something inside you is stirring, don't ignore it. That's your higher self calling you forward. That's your vision asking you to step up. That's your purpose refusing to be buried any longer under layers of fear, doubt, and compromise. Trust it, follow it, and don't look back. Because once you've seen what's possible beyond average, there is no going back. There is only forward. And forward is where your power lives. The life you're living right now is a direct reflection of the standards you've accepted for yourself. Not the goals you've written down, not the dreams you've whispered late at night, but the actual standards you live by, what you tolerate, what you allow, what you settle for. It's easy to say you want more, to talk about purpose and legacy, to post quotes and write plans. But until you raise your standards, none of it changes. The reality is, you don't get what you wish for. You get what you're willing to demand from yourself. When you carry high standards, everything in your life shifts. You stop entertaining distractions. You stop staying in places and around people who drain your energy. You stop negotiating your value for temporary comfort. It's not ego. That's not ego. That's alignment. And there's nothing wrong with wanting more for yourself. More clarity, more discipline, more impact. But the world will only rise to meet you when you rise first. You set the tone for how people treat you. You set the boundaries. You determine what's acceptable. And when you keep returning to average, when you say yes to less than you deserve, you send the message that average is enough for you, even when deep down you know it isn't. You see, we're not shaped by the big moments alone. We're shaped by the small, consistent choices we make every day. The ones no one sees, the ones that reveal our standards more than our words ever could. Do you hold yourself accountable when no one's watching? Do you keep your promises to yourself? Do you show up even when it's inconvenient, even when the excitement fades? Because that's what separates high standards from temporary motivation. That's what creates lasting transformation. And that's what pulls you away from average and into the extraordinary. But let me be clear. Raising your standards isn't about being perfect. It's not about controlling every outcome or impressing anyone. It's about deciding that your time, your energy, your effort, they all matter. It's about honoring the vision you've been given and showing up like it already belongs to you, because it does. The version of you that lives beyond average, beyond fear, beyond self-doubt, that version exists. But it can only come alive when you're willing to do the work. And part of that work means walking away from anything and anyone that doesn't align with where you're going. That's not selfish. That's responsible. That's how leaders move. That's how growth happens. You can't elevate your life if you're constantly making space for what holds you down. You can't step into your next chapter if you're still clinging to the mindset of your last one. You have to be willing to let go of old habits, old circles, old stories. And yes, it's uncomfortable. Yes, it's lonely sometimes. But nothing about excellence is easy. If it were, everyone would choose it. Most won't. Most people will continue doing what they've always done, hoping for a different result. But you're not most people. You feel it. You've always felt it. That pull towards something greater, that quiet voice that says there's more in you. That's not a coincidence. That's your truth. When you raise your standards, you stop chasing validation. You stop proving yourself to people who don't even see your value. You stop shrinking to make others feel comfortable. And instead, you stand in your worth. You lead with intention. You operate from strength, and people feel that. The right ones are drawn to it. The wrong ones are intimidated by it. But either way, you're not here to be understood by everyone. You're here to live in full alignment with who you are. That kind of clarity is magnetic. Clarity is magnetic. That kind of certainty is powerful. But it starts with you. With the decision to stop returning to the version of yourself that accepted crumbs, that doubted her potential, that apologized for wanting more. You don't need permission to grow. You don't need approval to raise the bar. You just need to decide once and for all that average is no longer an option, that who you were yesterday cannot compete with who you're becoming. And from that place of truth, you build, you rise, you lead. Because at the end of the day, your life will reflect your standards, not your intentions, not your hopes, but the level you choose to operate from. And the moment you start living from your highest standards, everything around you begins to change. Your energy, your confidence, your results. You stop chasing what's beneath you and start attracting what was always meant for you. And when that shift happens, there is no turning back. Energy is everything. It's not just how you feel, it's how you think, how you move, how you show up in the world. And the truth is, average isn't just a personal choice, it's often an influence. It's the conversations you allow, the people you surround yourself with, the environments you tolerate. Energy is contagious, and whether you realize it or not, you're absorbing everything around you. So if you're serious about rising, if you're serious about never going back to average, you have to start protecting your energy like your future depends on it, because it does. There are people who will celebrate your growth, and there are people who will be threatened by it. Not because you've done anything wrong, but because your ambition reminds them of everything they're not doing. Your discipline reflects their excuses. Your focus highlights their distractions. And in order to keep their own comfort intact, they'll try to pull you back. They'll tell you you're changing, that you're distant, that you're too focused, too driven, too intense. But that's not your problem to solve. You weren't made to live small just so someone else can feel big. You weren't born to water yourself down so others can stay comfortable in their limitations, so others can stay. Average minds will never understand exceptional vision. And the longer you stay connected to those energies, the heavier your spirit becomes. You start questioning yourself. You hesitate. You slow down. Not because you lost your purpose, but because you allowed noise to cloud your clarity. It's not always obvious. Sometimes it's subtle. It's the friend who jokes about your goals.